Hey there, Gemini community. Woo! Number 12. Oh, thank you so much for being the last ones up. 12, divine timing is at work. Be open to the flow. And let me tell you, Gemini frequency, have you been challenged with being open to the flow of the divine? So first off, let me say again, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your patience as I navigate this story between the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, and everything in between. Now, this is a safe and sacred space where I call in the angels, ancestors, spirit guides, as well as divine and universal energy to come on in and be the guides and the protectors for all the positive messages that are going to come out. Now, keep in mind that this is not love tarot here. This channel is geared around self-empowerment, which means building the stepping stones to getting closer to our soul being, which helps align us with a higher power. So let's get started with the vibe, Gemini. You're tired. You're tired because you feel like you're the only one who's taking care of business. This could be the very thing that is upsetting you. Unsure about how to do anything else or even how to change up what's happening. Gemini, really ask yourself this. Are you on the verge of being burnt out? Always trying to fix things that others are creating problems to. The feeling of being needed has created an unhealthy attachment to the need to feel like you have to help others. You are good enough. And this card, so many times, that's a Virgo full moon card. But it kept popping out as I was cleansing the cards, and it just stood there. And that is the biggest message here for the Gemini community is you're good enough. You've done enough. It's time to settle down and pour into your fulfillments that have been long overdue. Ooh. Gemini, have you been busy? You may have been a busy bee your whole life, always trying to do the most, trying to show that you're the most. But doing that has left you with a line from an energy that you run away from, in a sense. There's that unhealthy attachment of the need of feeling needed. So you're not, for this frequency, you're not in the shadow side yet, but you're building up to it. You're building up to facing the shadow side directly here soon. And it may be even in your month, but it may be sooner too. I'm not sure. But it's a big buildup. And depending on what you do from now until then will depend on how much you resist it or how much you're open to it. Sometimes, like for myself, I'm an air sign. I always have to keep things going. I'm going to take a detour real quick. I actually was journaling the other day, and I actually had shared with a Libra the other day. When I had woke up, I was walking, and I kept hearing this word in my head, lazy. And I was like, what is going on? Why is myself or this voice in my noggin calling me lazy? So I actually had to journal it out, and I had to go through and list things that make me feel like I'm lazy or that duplicate the energy of laziness. And I had to compare what I'm actually doing to whatever this intrusive thought that's coming in. And I realized that, hey, I'm not lazy. I don't know what this is, but obviously it's a monster that I deal with when it comes to my anxieties of how I'm operating in my world. So I don't know if you checked out that new moon, full moon interpretation, but it does talk about the past monsters that we have to face, or the monsters of the past that we have to face, knowing that we are favored from the divine, that we're not out on our own. You know, there is a higher power that sees us, that sees the things that we're doing. And that higher power does acknowledge when we need rest. And if we can't acknowledge it, it will tell us only so many times, and then all of a sudden it drops a really big change into our laps, and we don't have a choice but to slow down. Keep that in mind. It is not a crime to slow down and to start to take care of you, especially if you've been taking care of so much for so long. If you have the means to do it, if you have the time to do it, then you deserve it. We all deserve it. Let's go ahead and get started with the introduction with the Moonology Oracle. Gemini, angels, ancestors, what is it, guys, that needs to come out? Something we're not seeing right away. Nothing is set in stone yet. Holy moly, isn't that the truth? I don't think I can get any more lighting here because of the backdrop lighting. Let me see. There we go. There we go. Thank you for your patience. Nothing's set in stone. You don't see that. Maybe you feel like your life is always going to be this emotional roller coaster of just running from one thing to another, always having to take care of so much. Don't let your pride get in the way. Full moon in Leo. That tells me too is that you don't feel like you have the willpower to do something different. You don't give yourself permission to use this willpower. What is it about your pride that has you always moving, fulfilling others? It has to do probably with the personal issue. This is a full moon in Cancer. Full moon in Cancer, Cancer's house, 4th house energy is establishing foundations. This could be in the very foundations that you grew up with, the very foundations that you've also constructed around you, on the ways that you see the world. Or it could be that the way that you think that the world sees you. I have a win-win outcome is forecasted in Libra. But you bury this because you don't see that the conclusions that you need are reached within yourself. This is that giving yourself permission to know that you are good enough. You have done enough. You've been doing enough. You have a lot of confusion going on right now, Gemini. Ooh. You're not really operating in the thoughts in a sense. It's weird. I see you in more of the emotional side of things, how you feel. There could be something attached to how you feel. Your hard work is paying off. Yeah, we've talked about you don't see that all this work that you're doing. You don't think that it's enough. But there's something here that you're operating in that's outside of your element, I would say. Gemini, your element is air. It's thoughts. It's being logical right here. I feel a Gemini operating more out of their emotions. I see them operating out of a deep passion. a deep passion, but it's to keep something at bay. Maybe to keep a tradition from happening. Prosperity lies ahead. Maybe it's in all this that you do for others that you feel like you're successful. Maybe it's a direct opposite to something that you don't want to be, some way that you don't want to be. We can be very prideful with stuff like that when we're trying not to repeat certain cycles. But what I was told many years ago, especially for children of parents who were in the thick of the mess. And these kids grow up not wanting to be like their parents. And they end up doing so much trying not to be like their parents that in some ways they end up being like them, even though they fought so much not to be like them. There's something here, there's some fight in here that you're doing, and it's for a very personal reason. But you're not in an emotionally balanced state, and you're not seeing it from a logical view. It's being led with a lot of pride, I would say. A lot of pride, a lot of stubbornness. Alright, so let's figure out what's going on a little bit more with the present for the Gemini frequency. Alright, here we go. What is it that needs to come out for Gemini? Whoa. This is something that you're meant to deal with. And you're meant to deal with this with others, through others, or others who have been around you. You could have others who have been overly opinionated. You could have others who honestly don't know what they're doing themselves. And I feel like you've been able to sit in the middle of this kind of mix, just kind of taking in and trying to strategize how not to make these same mistakes. Trying to see how everything's stacked up on these others. Yeah, look at that. It comes a lot down to these others. So just like, it's like the vibe of this time, because Aquarius had this earlier. I don't think they had the death part though. But it's transformation through relationship with this death card. What they did have is this 3 of coins here. So with this contract here and with this death card here, this is a cycle that's meant to happen. And it's meant to bug you until you have the evolvement that you need from it. Till you're able to learn the lesson and grow and move forward. Adapt to your environment, relating to others in a new, more nurturing, more harmonizing, more healthy kind of relationship way. I think with the last story, Gemini, we talked about how at the core, you don't know how others really feel about you. Like, you know that they care about you, but on a very deep level, you don't know how far that love goes. You question it in a sense, or it's always others' love is questionable to you. You don't know how authentic they're being. And somehow, I think this is going to lead you a little bit out of that muck. Let's keep going. We have a 7 of coins, confused on what you have worked on. What has been the fortune so far? What has been the outcome so far? Oh, and then we have the Sun card in reverse. You're not... either it's like a big fear, you don't know if you can get past what these others have been through, how these others think. This Wheel of Fortune, our Wheel of Fate, also talks about change. For some reason, you don't see that you're already doing something different. For some reason, you still feel stuck, or you're confused on how far you have come. You're unsure. Unsure of the fairness of this outcome. Unsure of, also, it's like the entanglement of you that you have within you. It's like trying to balance out, trying to do everything in such a way that you don't make the same mistakes has left you really like entangled in yourself. You're still fair. That's because you're still trying to help everyone. But you're tangled in a sense. And I get that because of this Five of Cups. Really looking out onto there. Not knowing how much to put in, how much to let go. Let's see, what else needs to come out? So, the whole thing is your objective has not, again, to repeat the same mistakes as these others. I don't know what these others had did so much in the past or with themselves, with these people, places, or things. But your goal, again, is not to be out in the cold. Not to be suffering like how they have been suffering. And again, it's been the biggest drive for you. But it's also a part of being able to move past these anxieties that you have about repeating these same mistakes. Because you don't see, I mean, you may see you're doing something different, but deep inside, somehow you still kind of feel a little bit of the same. I don't know if it's a wounded child thing, but it's like you go back and forth, and then that fuels your fire even more to want to do more for others. Let's see, I'm confused on this Five of Coins. Let's go ahead and get a clarity card for the Five of Coins. What is the clarity card behind the Five of Coins? Alright, so we have a Six of Swords here to clarify the Five of Coins, and it comes on to the Eight of Wands. You are unable to rise to the occasion when necessary. You thrive under adversity. Trouble is invigorating, and you are bored when life is too easy. Challenges are really just opportunities. Quick responses and fast thinking. Action is needed. Your instincts are good. Like I was saying, you're not seeing what you're doing. You're just seeing how the anxieties of what you don't want to be like, what you don't want to repeat, you just see how that creates, again, that urge for you to do more. Yeah. What I hear is that song, Follow the Leader, 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 Follow the Leader, Sígueme. It's a Spanish song. I feel like you don't see how you are the leader now. You are not a follower. You have grown past whatever happened in the past, in a sense. You have been a trailblazer yourself, and in leading a direction, a new way of going. But you don't understand that, you don't see that, because you're too busy focused on the past and the mistakes of these others in the past, and comparing yourself to them as well. Comparing what you do, how much you give. Ooh. Three of Swords. There's a truth that you don't want to bring up because you're confused. How to judge it. Confused about the monsters. What was really happening? What were the very reasons that led you to go off the ways that you have gone off in your life? That's your passions have been one of the biggest drives here. You have a lot of wands out here. You have a lot of charisma here to show up a whole lot different, to operate within a different energy. That's what I see. But what do they tell somebody when you're running a race? Anybody ever done track here? Or trying to outrun something? What do they say when you're trying to run a race? You don't look back. If you want to win, you want to be the fastest, you have to keep focused forward. Keep looking forward. When you start to look back, you lose momentum. You're losing energy. You're putting your focus back here, and your focus ain't where you need to go. You can misstep. You can trip. You could even slow down. You could give away a victory that way. You could not end up seeing the opportunity to get out of that bear's way, so to say. And you have to be truthful with that. You have to put that past down. You have to face it, acknowledge it, but put it down. Because you've been able to bring in this new truth, but you're just not seeing it yet. Maybe working on forgiving the past. That usually is one of the biggest things. Using the heart chakra, the heart directly, that frequency of love to heal things of the past. They say when you use your heart chakra to heal, you can balance out the other energies in you. And a balanced heart chakra is love, compassion, harmony, emotional balance, and forgiveness. When it's out of balance, it's jealousy, bitterness, holding grudges, lack of empathy. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't see that you had a past here that was the most wonderfulest. If you're so focused on what happened in this past, that tells me that there was a lot of stuff going on that this Gemini didn't have a choice on. Okay? But focusing, holding on to all that negative points of the past, and not seeing how all those negative points helped you see something different for your future, for the futures that you wanted to help create, for the things, the people, the places around you. because you had a choice. Remember this, Gemini. You had the choice to repeat the same mistakes, but through this story you chose differently. Now, how can you honor that? How can you let go of the mistakes of these others that they were making in this past? I'm not saying that you let go so that you become vulnerable again. I'm saying that you let go so you can forgive and move forward from it. You can start looking forward to things instead of looking back always at what happened. Look forward to the things that you are going to build. Look forward to the things that you are going to do. Look forward to the things that you are creating. It's hard when we feel like we don't have choices. But what I get here is, Gemini, your job was one that very few were willing to step up for. Very few wanted to change it. And you were one of the few. Don't forget that. Remember, your instincts have been good. Now, how can we move forward and be able to start taking care of ourselves now, Gemini? So let's go into the block here. Angels of protection, help guide us as we navigate the block for Gemini. What is it that needs to come out for the Gemini frequency? The Ace of Swords. Why don't you believe in your truth? You don't believe in your instincts. You don't believe in your gut. You don't believe in the judgment that you've had about some of these things that's propelled you forward. For some reason, you don't believe that you're doing something different. I go from a King of Cups to the Nine of Cups in reverse. Here comes that Six of Wands. You have took it upon yourself here to try and fix these others of the past. Oh, and how you've tried to do it. You tried to come in with a really big heart, with this mature energy of guidance. But it didn't work. You tried to come in then with the energy, again, like the Six of Wands, with everything that you're doing, that charismatic, but you even set some stuff on fire as you was doing it, metaphorically. You turned up the heat on them. Maybe gave people ultimatums. It didn't work. All it did was leave you questioning yourself. Yep. So this card does pop out again. This time it comes out in reverse. But do you notice how these two are in the same direction? That's because you keep trying to compare yourself to these others. I don't know if you actually really have been able to observe these others outside of your emotions, outside of your anger, outside of the bitterness that you have towards some of their choices that they've made, still can be making, etc. Because look, you got somebody blind here. This one, I don't know if you can tell, but to me, when I look at her focus, this This one would be like overly pissed all the time, while this one is like the doofy one. You can't see the eyes, but the eyes look like they're focused on the nose. While you have another one who's just blatantly wanting to be blinded to things. And I really feel like you not seeing that about them. You not understanding that about them has kept you, in a sense, attached to this energy, this fear of not knowing if you can make those changes, this fear that you're kind of doing some of the same things, in a sense. This fear that drives you to have to do so much for everyone else. It's that direct attachment through those anxieties. Everything wants to come over here. Here we go with that Page of Wands again. This is something that you've been established in a routine for a while. This may be a very hard routine for you to break. I don't know if you see it as your job to come in and to try and fix these individuals. What's that saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And I actually had a therapist tell me, well, we don't know what's going on with the water. You don't know if it's because the horse is not feeling good. You don't know if it's something with the water. And I like how that opened up the perspective of why in that metaphor that horse wouldn't drink. Because a lot of times we would say, oh, it's due to its stubbornness. It's due to it acting like an ass. It's due to its ignorance. It's due to this. It's due to that. Instead of opening up, maybe there's something that that horse knows that we don't know. Maybe there's something going on with that horse that we don't know. There's something here that you don't know. There's something here that you don't understand about them. You understand what you've been able to view, but you don't understand how these ones can be stuck in their ways. What was it that got them stuck in their ways? And how is it that people can stay so stuck? And honestly, I say this with lots of love, Gemini. You can speculate. You can speculate. You can observe. You can have an opinion. But the ones who know why they're stuck sometimes don't want to acknowledge it. Sometimes don't want to know it. Sometimes would rather just stay stuck. And it's really on them to come out of it. No matter how much you want to free them from their suffering, it's always on them. I've shared this before. I had somebody who I was very close with at one time. I would try and do the most for them. I wanted to try and save them before they went down this path, and everybody else was blind. And so many years later, I asked this person, after they've been walking this really rough path of addiction, and I asked him, are you ready? Are you ready? It had been 5+ years later. No. They told me, no, I'm not ready. I'm okay with the way my life is going. I had another person who told me, because they're a really heavy drinker, they don't see wanting to better their future because they don't see wanting to do more with themselves. They don't see wanting to live past a certain age. They don't have those ambitions. So later on, when I would talk to them and they would want to go down that rabbit hole of trying to get me to feel sorry for them, I wouldn't. If anything, I would tell them, well, I understand where you're coming from because you told me you see this and this in life. You have to listen to people to understand what their goals are. Not everybody has good goals in life. Not everybody wants to do better with themselves. Not everybody knows or wants to know how to take the steps to do better for themselves. If anything, it's going to keep tearing you apart, or you're going to run yourself so thin and burnt out, you could end up with an injury. And I say this in the most lightest way. Remember, this is all for entertainment purposes, but think about it. When we are really worn out, when our mental capacity is on its thinnest string ever, when emotionally we can't take any more, think about how reckless we get. How we will try and race through the yellow light that turned red on us. How will we, again, become more reckless in some of our decisions because we got this anger going on, because we're worn out, we got this frustration. Because we can't get things to work out better, even though we're doing so much work to try and get it better. This is why you have to know when to let go of this part of your pride and to really go within yourself and figure out why you're running around like this, what it is that you're trying to escape from, what it is that you're trying to prove to yourself on when it comes to you not repeating others' mistakes. We can do all of that, and we don't have to sacrifice ourselves or every minute of our day to everyone else. Let's go ahead and pull a few more cards for the block. What else needs to come out? The Eight of Pentacles. You work. I feel like you can, in your mind, if you do so much work, maybe this work will outdo what has been done or what needs to be done for you. And I say that because that lands on that Three of Swords. Three of Swords talks about deception, but it also talks about truth. You're trying to outweigh everything with this over dedication. Outweigh that conflict. Outweigh not feeling like you have a choice and stuff. Outweigh things that didn't work out the way you really wanted them to with these others. Ooh, that's really hard. That is really hard. That is hard, especially when you've been running yourself ragged this whole time, trying to show everybody that we have different ultimatums, we have different choices. We have the right to take our free will in different directions. I think you work so hard to show all these others what can be done in a different direction. It's very hard, Gemini. It is very hard to be surrounded by a lot of energy that doesn't see progress, that doesn't see growth, that doesn't see the more opportunities in life. But you running around trying to chase these others down, I don't know if you're trying to teach them how to be grown-ups. I don't know if you're trying to teach them, again, that they can have totally different outcomes, but it's not working. It's taking away from you more than anything, because you're running away from the fear of making the same mistakes. In order to get out of that fear, you gotta get out of this delusional, this view that you have. Again, because no amount of work that you do on your end, your success doesn't change who they are. Just remember that. You could be the most successful person in whatever area that you go in, but it's not going to change who these others are. The best examples I can give you is, let's say you're a doctor who has this wonderful background in holistic health. Just because you became this doctor doesn't mean that everybody in your community, your family, your coworkers is going to change, or is going to be open to changing, to doing more holistic stuff for themselves. And as a person who's went through this will drive you nuts, because you will run around trying to teach them everything that you know in ways that you know, bringing on that heat at times to try and wake them up. But your job is not to wake them up. Your job is to wake yourself up. It's to do better for yourself so you can set that example for others. And if these others choose to wake up, that's on them. But your example is to wake others up if they choose, but also to help out those future generations to come, to be the teachers of these future generations to come, to help break whatever cycle was happening within this community. That was your job here. When you can stop running yourself thin, trying to do the most, to try and change people, or to try and run away from a past that you're trying not to be, it is going to lead you to burning yourself out. You're fighting an invisible monster in a sense. You have to confront this past. You have to confront this past with the success that you have now, with the mindset, with the love, with the passion that you have now. That is what's going to help. That's how you will fully untangle yourself from this fear of repeating these mistakes. You have to understand, if this is a family community, you're going to have some habits from these people. And I'm not talking about drug addiction habits. I could be talking about certain habits, certain tastes, certain likes, certain disagreement kind of patterns. If you don't like those kind of things that you've inherited from them, instead of being hard on yourself, how can you learn to do it differently? Because I feel like it's those little things that remind you of their past mistakes against you, or whatever happened in that past, that really has your Achilles tendon here, Gemini. That really keeps you looking back. It's time to stop looking back. It's time to start looking forward to the prosperity that you're building. Knowing that as long as you keep working and you're leading that direction for that good change, that breaking of the generational curses, that you're going to find it. You're going to find what you're looking for. You're going to resolve these personal issues, and you're going to be able to understand yourself a little bit more. Remember, nothing is set in stone. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this conclusion. Divine and universal energies. What are the positive messages that need to come out for this conclusion for the Gemini frequency? Ooh. Let's see. Mindfulness. This is a really good card for Gemini. Mindfulness. When you feel your head racing about, when those anxieties are creeping up, bringing it back to the present. Really feeling the present through your senses, your sense of touch, your sense of taste, your sense of smell, your sense of sight. Really, really, really being within your environment at that time and stepping out of those anxieties of the past, the anxieties of this past that you go around in your head that make you question yourself. Putting down the defenses here. There's a time and a place to be defensive, and this one isn't it. It's time to bring love into the situation. Yeah. Luna. Luna is feminine energy. It's moon energy. It's Cancerian energy as well. It talks about the things that we want to nurture, but how we like to be nurtured. The moon also talks about giving birth, and this birth doesn't deal with just pregnancies of us reproducing, but giving birth to new ideas, new ways of going. Getting off of being defensive is going to open up the energy of acceptance, compassion, kindness, and mercy onto this whole situation, because like I said, you're seeing it from your view, but you're not understanding what got these ones to where they're at. What is their truth? Why they're so stubborn? Why they want to say that their truth may not be your truth. You may not feel like their truths are valid, but to them in their worlds, their truths are. Don't drive yourself nuts trying to change people when that's not your job. You cannot take away what has happened to them. You cannot rewrite their history to give them that happily ever after. But you can set the example for them. The example of healing. The example of moving forward. Alright, let's keep going. What else needs to come out? Oh, we retracted that. Woo woo. Navigation. Like I said, you are the leader now. You pick and choose where you want to go. I feel like this Gemini here has been into their adult years for a little bit now. You can pick to be mindful, or you can pick to be defensive and reactive. It's just up to you on how you want to balance things and where you want to take your free will. Do you still want to self-sacrifice to keep running from this invisible monster? Or do you want to bring on a new emotional balance by exploring a different area of yourself? An area that brings on mindfulness, acceptance, love, mercy, compassion, kindness. It's up to you. Woohoo! Let's see. What are the last two cards that want to come out? Last two cards. All right, we got one of them. Creativity. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I was hoping that this would come out. A part of you backing off and trying to run yourself thin, you got to do something for you. And this isn't just sitting around eating goodies all day and just being laid up, totally relaxing. No, this is bringing in a new kind of hobby for yourself. Something that you're able to express yourself in. What I see is something that makes you smile. It could be something with movement in it. Maybe something that you used to do as a hobby when you were younger. That creativity is going to help to lessen your defenses because you're not going to be on edge as much. This creativity may help you open up to seeing the conflict within these relationships a little bit different. All right, so what is the last card? Last card for the Gemini frequency. Ooh, courage. I have courage in reverse, and courage lands on that navigation. The lionfish and the lion. The biggest thing when it comes to getting to know yourself, when it comes to letting go of this past, is having that courage that you know what you're doing, that you're taking care of your pride, you're taking care of business. It's not that you, when you stop focusing on these others, that you're abandoning them. No, you're creating a focus to, again, where you're going to navigate something different that brings in a different example for others. If these ones choose to grasp onto it, then let them. But your mission, again, is to provide this example for future generations and to break the cycle that's going on here. That's if, again, you have that will to step up and to honor that soul being at that soul level. Because there is the change that you want to happen and you want to drag these ones to it. But again, it's wasting energy. You running around trying to defeat this invisible monster from the anxieties of the past because you don't want to repeat their mistakes is what's having you kind of, in a sense, repeating the same mistakes. What do I mean? I'm not doing the same thing as them. You're not being truthful with yourself. That's repeating the same mistake right there, because these ones, they're not being truthful with themselves. Are you really being truthful with yourself, stringing yourself so thin? Feeling like if you take a moment for yourself, you're being selfish? Is that really being truthful with yourself and being truthful with what you deserve? Is that having kindness and mercy upon yourself, acceptance of yourself and how hard you work? Those are really big questions to ask yourself when you're being mindful of things. When you're trying to bring yourself into the present and actually see the choices that you have, how you really feel within you, and how you can have more. You can have what you're looking for, but it's going to be done differently, and it's going to have to be letting go of these expectations for these others. All right, Gemini, this is going to conclude it. Thank you so much for hanging out and being number 12. And don't forget to thank your angels, ancestors, spirit guides, as well as divine and universal energy for coming in. And I hope that you have a most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.